Welcome, welcome.
Mrs. Campbell Smith.
Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning,
Deedat.
ma'am. Please, please.
Thank you.
Come, sit down.
Thanks.
Get you some tea, coffee, Coke?
I'd love a cup of tea, please.
With milk, without milk?
Without milk. Thank you.
Yourself?
No, thanks.
Well, sit down. One tea with without milk. Out of happiness. With milk, just one second.
Yeah, so I'll see him on Saturday and, I'll give you a ring.
And ask him when, obviously it's very difficult for me not to know when I'm intruding and when I'm not
Indeed,
intruding,
yeah.
because he's a very busy man with his practice.
Was I told Mrs. Campbell Smith?
That's right. It's a very long name, unfortunately, but my husband's not
Double barrel.
double barrel.
So at one stage, the husband and the wife must have been both persistent about his, I want my surname, and that is also my surname.
No, I haven't been like that. That is just my husband's name, but it's a very long
No, I
name.
mean his family.
That's right.
Campbell Smith.
Campbell Smith, yes.
Right. So the Campbell and the Smiths, they must have it.
I think they must have amalgamated together. It's a Scots family and an English family,
Oh,
you see.
oh.
So I think that way back in the days when the Scots and the English were still fighting each other, they obviously joined, and that's how it happened.
Yes. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for sparing me the time. I've come to see you today basically to tell you a little bit about my company.
Right.
And I thought that I would start off first of all by giving you my card,
Right.
so that you know who I am.
Yes, ma'am.
My telephone number and address are on the back of the card.
Right, right.
Because I don't know, for some strange reason they decided that was the way
Yes.
to do things.
That's all right, ma'am. Yes.
And my husband was quite interested to know that I was coming to see you, because
She could have joined you,
he works in Botswana actually. But previously he has been working in Saudi Arabia,
Right.
in Dakhan.
Right, right.
So he said to please send you his best wishes.
Thank you.
And
You would have said the best salams too.
that's right. So he's done a lot of work. He's been working there for almost 2 years
Right.
in Saudi Arabia.
Right, right.
He used to come home
Yes.
every couple of months to see us.
In Durban? In Durban? You live in
First of
Durban?
all in England, because I've been living in England for the past 16 years.
Right, right,
and,
right.
we decided that perhaps we would try and be a little closer as a family.
Right.
But now he's working in Botswana and I'm working here, so really it hasn't helped. It would have made no difference. He spends as much time traveling now as he did before.
Shame.
The company that I am with, Mr. Deedat, is called Mondial.
Yes.
It is part of a company called Hansard International Trust,
Yes.
which is one of the largest international brokerages in the world.
Right.
We have our main headquarters in the Isle of Man,
Yes.
which, as you know, is an
Right.
island
Yes.
of England. The
Yes.
reason that we have that is that we find that we provide more of a tax advantage for people who have money abroad.
Right.
And also in the Isle of Man you can use whatever currency you wish.
Right.
Whereas if you have investments in England, you have to use sterling,
Right.
etc.,
Right.
etc.
Right. Right.
The company
Yes,
itself.
Ramya
Thank you very much.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
The company itself was started in July 1970.
Yes.
The company was started basically because we found that we could provide better service to people if we actually lived within the country that they were operating,
Right.
which was why my husband was living and working in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Because if you have money and investments overseas, it's very hard to know what is going on in that country
Right.
and what is the best thing that you should do.
Right.
If you only have somebody perhaps coming to see you once every 6 months,
Yes.
or perhaps once a year if you're lucky.
Yes.
So we found that it was much better to actually live and work in the countries where people were actually living and working, so that we could advise them on an everyday basis,
Right, right.
that we could be there if they
Right.
needed service.
Right. Right.
Up to this point of time, we have now since July 1970 within Mondial have on hand over £500 million of our clients' funds. Those are invested with various organizations. You've had a lot of problems in South Africa with companies like Master Bond and Supreme Bond, and basically people that are not very honest. Within the Isle of Man, which is run by the Manx government, they say, first of all, that whatever financial company that is actually operating on their island, they first investigate. And if you have, for example, like we have, £500 million invested throughout the world, you have to put up security of the same amount. Then each of these companies has to pay to the government basically what is a fidelity. So that if anything happens to your company, then the people that have invested with you, their government guarantees you 90% of your investment at the time of the company's collapse. Because they believe that if you are going to have people investing with you, you must have a certain morality. So that is why we find that a lot of people invest through us because of this guarantee. And I sleep well at nights because I know that no matter what happens, those people's monies are guaranteed, which I think is very important. The other thing that we also do is first of all look at the tax efficiency of all investments. Because it's fine if you go to a stockbroker and he says, invest in IBI, Hong Kong, Shanghai Bank, whichever. And he invests your money. And then he says to you, Mr. Deedat, now it's time to sell. And you do. And you make money. And then you turn to your stockbroker and say, but what about my tax situation? And he says, Mr. Deedat, now you must go to an accountant. We don't find that there is point in that. There is no good you making a 40% profit and having to pay 30% in tax. So we would rather put you in a position where you made a 14% profit and legally paid no tax at all. That way, you not only actually have a good return on your money, but you know that you do not have to not only pay the stockbroker and the accountant and the tax. It's a crazy system.
But isn't it against the law for a South African to keep money outside?
It is not against the law for a South African to keep money outside, Mr. Deedat, if he declares it to the Reserve Bank. And don't forget that I am not just dealing with South Africans. I am dealing mainly with either English expatriates or overseas residents, English people who have lived here, or Americans, Chinese, or whoever. That is not against the law to have money abroad. You have to declare what you have abroad to the Reserve Bank, and you have to, by law, bring your dividend into this country. But it is not illegal to have money externally, as long as it is declared. I obviously can't be held responsible for people's morals, so I cannot investigate whether they declare it or not.
Right.
But my advice to people, there's no good having money in a bank that is actually depreciating.
Right.
Because whatever country you live in, whether it's here or the Middle East or England, the cost of living is going up.
Right.
Doubling here in Africa every 5 years, doubling in Europe every 10 years.
Right.
So if you put